Hey, how y'all doing? I'm gonna give it a minute for it to kick on, and maybe a couple people jump in uh, and get into a little talk about why homesteads fail. and I I was thinking today. I was sitting up here looking around my homestead, looking at the progress I've made and whatnot, and okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at my chat here. Yep. Okay. And hey, Mary Branch, hello, sister. How you doing? Thinking about you. You're in my prayers. I hope everything's going well for you. Um, like I said, I was sitting up here, looking over what I want to get accomplished here, what I want to do here, and it got me thinking about why I haven't accomplished what I've wanted to accomplish as fast as I want to accomplish it. And then I kind of got thinking about other people I've seen that are homesteaders, and some of them that didn't make it for for certain reasons, and so my discussion tonight's going to be about why homesteads fail. So I'm going to start in the beginning, kind of like uh, one reason I believe, and now this is totally my personal opinion on what I've seen. You feel free to disagree with me if you want. That's fine. If you want to discuss it, I'll drop the link. You can come up here. We'll talk about it. Whatever. Um, One thing and I'm going to look, and Jackie's in the chat, and you all know I have nothing to hide, and I'm straightforward. One thing I do notice about homesteads, if you have a couple, uh, you're the couple, two people married, and one of them gets the notion they want to start doing a homestead or wants to go off grid or whatever. Now I wasn't going to take it to off grid. That's a different ballpark. I think that's a little more extreme homesteading. But let's just look at homesteading in general. And you have a couple, or even if they're married or whatever, you have a couple, and one of them wants to start homesteading. Well, the other wants to support the other one, and it's fine. But they get the money, they go out, they buy a piece of land, and then they realize, or one of them realizes that it's a lot more work than they thought it was going to be, or they're pulling more weight than the other, or for whatever reason, and for whatever reason, it causes a conflict, and they split up. Uh, there's a lot to homesteading, you know, and it can go from, when I say homestead, it can go from just basic gardening, raising your own vegetables. Okay, I froze up. Um, so you know, uh, so one person loses interest in it, and hello, Dad. One person loses interest in it, and then it just the other person, it may go in depression from the separation or the divorce, and that's one way a homestead will not work. Sometimes you'll get a couple and they'll save their money or sell their house and get the money, and they'll go out and buy the homestead, and they don't stick to their budget, or the budget, like say before the pandemic, they sold their house, they're going to go out and build a house on the property and homestead and do it this way. Well, the price of wood skyrocketed, the price of lumber went up, so whatever their budget was for that homestead has now doubled or even tripled, and maybe they don't have the funds to do it. It can be a lot of different reasons. Um, the worth ethics. Maybe some people don't realize how hard homesteading is and the care they have to give their animals. They just think that you can get an animal, put it in a pen, put hay and water in there, and it's fine. It's going to be fine. But you have vet bills. Um, people say, well, it's just food. I don't have a vet bill. At some point, there's going to be a vet bill. If you have money invested into a steer, and that steer gets sick before it's due to be processed, you don't want to lose that money you have in that steer. So yeah, they're vet bills, predators. I lost about 50 chickens this year due to predators, and that can make somebody feel that just to feel the want to give up. Why keep going? I can't win. Um, exactly, Mary. Too much property, and it becomes overwhelming on them. If somebody if you're watching this and you're not a homesteader and you're planning on or thinking about getting into it, watch a lot of videos and really take it in. There is a lot more to homesteading than just buying animals and planting a garden and thinking you're gonna live. There's a lot more to it. You have to learn how to can if you don't have a can because you want to can your vegetables to go through the winter. You may want to sell some to help offset the price of raising that garden. Your animals, you may raise some for food. You may want to sell some. You may want to sell eggs. There's a lot of things that you invest in time. Will your job allow you to homestead? Some people want to go into homesteading thinking they can do it and work at the same time. Some people can, but maybe you're in a position where your work takes a lot of time. Somebody has to take care of those animals. Somebody has to take care of that garden. And like I said, I'm not trying to talk anybody out of it. Homesteading is a great thing. Homesteading is an awesome thing for people to do, and to live off the land for themselves uh, is great. Don't depend on supermarkets. Well, you look what happened when the shelves were bare. Don't depend on our government to help us. I mean, they're talking about. Thank God I'm a Christian, and I look at Christmas more as a holiday for worshiping God and the birth of my Lord and Savior. But I've got grandkids, and sadly, they're expecting presents, even though they know what Christmas is. It's also the time of presents for kids, and if the shelves are bare, there's going to be anything there. Um, and I'm not trying to get political on it. I'm just saying you can't depend on supply because supply can be cut. Look what happened during the pandemic. We saw what happened, and we saw how people get greedy. Christmas days, if they get greedy over toilet paper, you think they're going to only take one can of food and leave the rest for you? No, it's all out for themselves. They're going to take everything they can get in that cart and leave you nothing. They're not going to give you anything or leave you anything. We don't live in that kind of world anymore where people look out for each other. So, homesteading is a great opportunity to become one with nature. It's a great opportunity to get back to the old school way of living, self-sufficiency. But yeah, we got a bunch of freeloading and chickens and ducks right now. They're not laying or anything. But it costs money. Sorry, I froze up again. Anyway, I'll drop the link if anybody wants to come up and talk about this. You're more than welcome to come up and talk. It's open chat night or whatever. I don't care ever wants to come up and talk to me, and we can discuss it. You may have ideas that I'm not thinking of. You may have other thoughts that I'm not. You can even tell me I'm wrong in some things. That's fine. Just keep it respectful. Yeah, actually, it's really nice out here, but my computer must think it's cold, or the internet must think it's cold. Uh, you know, I just uh, I just see, and I have watched a lot of YouTubers that are doing homesteading, and I've watched how they failed because they didn't think it through, and they thought that's what they wanted to do, then got into it and found out that it wasn't as easy as they thought it was going to be, or it was more work than they thought it was going to be, and it costs more money because if you raise animals, you got to put up proper fencing. You can't have your animals getting loose. You got to be able to protect them from the predators. That's not cheap. So uh I think it if if it's something that you want to do, and if you already have your land in your house and you're thinking about it, uh you know I just know I haven't grown at the speed I wanted to grow. And my main reason for that is lack of funds. because I feel like if I can't properly take care of the animals, then it's not fair to them. So I shouldn't have those animals until I can properly take care of them, which I mean, build them a barn, a shelter, fence in a big area for them, not just a little corral that they have to stand in all day. Um, all right, Papa Rock, I love you, Dad. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you're feeling better. I hope your brother's doing better. You're in my prayers. He's in my prayers. So yeah, I hope all's well. I just think people jump the gun sometimes, and I'm famous for that. I don't think things through, and thank God I've got a wife that will sit down and say, "Hey, look, you got to look at the big picture. You need to think ahead, and this is this, and this." And I hate to admit it on here, but a lot of times she's right. Most of the time she's right. But yeah, um, it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to, if you go out and drill a well, what is that, about $10,000-15,000 now, at least? Um, and I'll take my situation. I want a homestead. My wife wants to garden more than homestead with the animals. She's not the animal kind of person. She doesn't have a problem with me raising the animals to put in the freezer. She just is not, that to take care of the animals is not her cup of tea. But I have a wife that also needs air conditioning because she, being disabled, she loves TV, so we have satellite television. So there has to be a compromise. We couldn't go just off grid. There's no way I could do it and give her what she wants, and that would ruin a marriage. So you really, if you're going into it with as a partnership with a significant other, then it's something you both have to sit down and really talk about and discuss. And I mean, you really need to research it. You can't just jump the gun and say, all right, we're going to do it, let's do it, because it's not what it seems to be. It's not what people make it out to be. It's not easy. By no means is it easy. And there's a lot of videos out there with people that that are honest and transparent about their experience and their journey. Um, my thing right now, I want to do. Yeah, I don't even think myself. I don't think I could. Mary Ranch. I think if I could go off grid, could afford to it, I wouldn't go off grid. What I would do is I would do solar, but I would stay on the grid, and whatever goes in, they pay you for because it feeds back into the grid. And if any situation comes where I need electricity, I'm still hooked to the grid. I couldn't totally go off grid. There's no way. There's no way I could, unless I had no choice. No choice. You can do what you got to do. But sorry about that. I think I got a raccoon cussing at me. He likes to come up and get the cat food at night, and I'm out here kind of late, and I hear him back here chittering at me, and I hear a hoot owl. But and Jackie's in schools too, and I'm in school. I'm on a break, but she needs the internet for school. So yeah, it's hey Red. Red, if you want to come on, I know you're in the middle of making dinner, but if you want to come on, I did put the link up. I can put it back. And if anybody wants to come on and talk, you're more than welcome to. I see 6 people are watching. I know I know there's other channels on live tonight that a lot of people watch, and I'm sure that, there's a lot of people watching them. But yeah, I grew up on a homestead. I was born on a homestead and a tobacco farm, and I grew up with it, and and I know what it's like to do it. Since I was a little boy, before I went to school, and I'm talking about in elementary school, I went out and I milked a cow every morning. I came home and took care of them. Hi, Red, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Would you like to add anything to what I'm discussing?
Yeah, I would. Um, well, first of all, homesteading, although it's like when people started getting into it. It was the thing to get into, you know. And I'm afraid that people will like rush into it head first
Well, yes,
instead
it's
of
definitely not a
stopping.
fad. Right, it's not a
Yeah, it's
fad,
not a
and
fad. This is a
right.
lifestyle.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And if you're not prepared for it, if you don't do your research, you don't study on it. I mean, hell, it took us 4 years before we decided to get chickens
Yeah,
because I wanted to learn everything about chickens. I didn't want to jump into it head first. That's forgive me, but that's stupid.
yeah. But unfortunately, people do that.
But
Sadly, they
yeah,
do
but
do it.
that's what makes them fail
Oh,
because
yeah,
they get overloaded, overwhelmed. They don't know what to do next, and then they simply want to give up. Don't give up. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
absolutely,
But the thing is, you got to learn from your mistakes. If you
absolutely.
don't learn from your mistakes, you're never going to get through life at all.
I agree with you 100%.
But good God, don't rush into it because they see it as a fad because everybody else is doing it. No, that's a lifestyle. That's like rushing into marriage because everyone is doing it.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Especially when I was younger, all my friends were getting married. Heck yeah, I want to get married too. Everybody else getting married.
Yeah, because it's cool.
Sure.
But it takes hard work for a
Yes.
homestead or even a marriage.
And you're definitely not going to get into it and think you're going to make money right off the bat. It's going to be a year, at least a year or two before you even start breaking even. So you're going to be in the hole for the first couple of years. I mean, that's just the way it happens. You've got chickens that have got to mature out to grow. You got
Yeah.
to get people that want to buy what you're producing, and so it's not something that happens overnight. That's for sure.
One thing that we are trying to do, because chickens live to around 3 to 4 years of age, and then they quit laying.
Hmm.
Then you dispatch them. We're trying to keep a constant rotation of chickens, those that we can slaughter for food, those that we're keeping for eggs, and those that we are still raising that can give us eggs later.
Right.
Is it cheap? Oh, hell no, it ain't cheap. You got to buy their vitamins. You got to buy their electrolytes. You got to buy their food. You got to, buy their. No, oh, this is a one-time thing. But the waterers, their feeders. Once you buy it, it'll last for years.
Sure.
But there's the expense in it. So if you're going to um, get into something like that, and let's start with chickens because chickens are relatively easy. Start buying the things that you need now before you get your chickens. Don't put your freaking your cart before your horse, because if you do that, you are going to screw up, and that will cause extra stress. That is one, it's not needed, and two, it's kind of silly to cause yourself.
I think the last 5-gallon water I bought was damn near $50. So I mean, things aren't cheap.
No.
Things aren't cheap, and sometimes you can't find what you need. I play hell finding chicken food at my local Tractor Supply. I'm going to eventually save up money and buy a grain cart and go to the mill where it's even cheaper. But you'll go to Tractor Supply and that spot is bare. It's hard to find chicken food, and when they get it in, it goes quick. So I mean,
That's why I order online.
yeah, and well, that's going to
Before,
be a problem too.
before well, I know because it has to be trucked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
We got rain barrels out there that we can put chicken food in.
yeah, it's good.
But the thing is, we don't have a truck to go and pick it up.
Yeah. Well,
Right
even if
now,
you buy an extra bag every time you go and put that extra bag in there just to stockpile extra for later while you can get it, it may help too.
we have 150 pounds of food out there. But that's only going to last, what, 3, 4 months?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen later when you can't get it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So start getting your stuff now. Take your time. Jumping into something without doing your duty of research, it's like going and just walking into a brick wall just because, it's the trend now.
Yeah. And don't take me wrong. I'm definitely not here to talk anybody out of homesteading. I would love to see everybody be able to homestead that can, even if you live in an apartment and grow vegetables on your balcony. The more you do, the better. But
Exactly.
but and I'll just put Mary Ranch's thing up here. Yes, prepare for and set up for your before you get any animals. Remember, try to have 3 months of food on hand is what is a good thing. And I agree
Yes,
with
I
her.
agree. I agree with that. I really do.
Yeah,
I agree with what she just said.
find a good and horses to me are a different subject. That's not so much of a homestead animal. That's more of an enjoyment thing because if you ride them or you like them, but when you buy the hay, you've got to make sure that hay's not moldy. Where a cow and goats can eat hay that's been out, a horse cannot. There's things people come into this idea. Well, I'll get a goat. They can eat anything. No, they cannot. There
No,
are
there's
things that
some
will
things
kill
that can
goats.
kill. Yeah.
Yeah, they cannot eat anything, and they won't eat everything. So that's just a wise tale.
Well,
Uh,
like,
you
on
know,
Lazy Acres, I'm always asking Glenn questions about things. What's the difference between this goat, that goat? Like the other day, they was talking about Nubian goats and Kiko goats.
mhm,
Kiko goats are more of a meat goat. They're not
right,
more, they don't do the milk.
right,
So you got to know that you're different species of animals. You got to know their personalities. You got to know what is expected of you to make them happy and healthy until you know.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely is something. If you're considering homesteading, it's really something you need to sit down. If you're by yourself, sit down and think hard. If you've got a partner, uh, a marriage or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you're in a partnership with somebody, you need to have both on the same level. Because if one person is just going there to support the other person,
It ain't gonna work.
they're going to get tired and they're not going to want to do that work because I'm telling you, it's not easy work. I don't
It's
care what
gotta
anybody
be
says.
a it's gotta be a team.
Exactly.
Because one
Exactly.
person may, say, well, okay, we can do that, we can do that. When all they're doing is trying to please you.
Yeah.
Well, then eventually they realize just how hard that work is, how much time, and that's another important thing. You got to have time. It is to put in on those animals. And if they
Exactly.
get tired of it, then you're left with everything else. Like here at my house, I'm single. My boys help me.
Yeah.
They take turns going out and checking the waters, making sure they have waters, making sure they have food, collecting the eggs, letting them out in the morning and put them back, making sure the door's closed at night. And they do the hard work, the manual work. I do the research because, well, being in a wheelchair can't really do much. But I do what I can do. And thank you, Froze, again. He be frozen
I'm back.
like a popsicle.
I know. But no,
Popsicle
yeah,
man.
but you're absolutely right. And like
I'm
I
sorry.
said,
I've been
you've
on
got
a
to.
rant today.
That's all right. And if you want to talk about that right now, talk about it because what you're in is you've got a little homestead there, and look at the situation you've got to deal with beside that homestead. You're free to talk about it. I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to, but
I may come up with a lot of words that I really
you're on
don't.
my channel. It doesn't matter.
True. All right. A lot of people may not know, but a lot of people may know that my wheelchair collapsed on me. If it wasn't for Glenn and April at Lazy Acres Homestead, I wouldn't have a wheelchair right now because they fixed mine to where I could get another one. Well, now I'm fighting to get another one, all because the insurance is requiring this because there's too many damn people out there willing to sit on their fat lazy ass and have someone else take care of them because they want the sympathy and they want the freaking, oh god, it makes me so mad.
I can see why, and I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, I hate pity. Do not pity me. I hate sympathy. there is sometimes that you will sympathize with somebody. Let's say that they lose a loved one or something like that. That is sympathy. That's caring. But to feel sorry for me, hell no. I will cuss you out in a hot damn second. You start showing me some pity
Yeah.
that way. No, that pisses me off.
You have a right to be pissed off. I don't blame you. Is that Travis or Matt?
That was Travis. Travis, because I think they can tell.
But this here is a prime example. If you're living on a tight budget
And we
and
are.
you have something go wrong, like Red's wheelchair, or like me and my wife, we lost our well, we lost electricity. The box had to be on the pole had to be replaced. That was $700. If I had a well company replace my pump, that would have been a $1,500 job. Luckily I knew how to do it, so I bought the pump and did it myself and saved half of that. But unexpected things come up, so if you're depending on that money to feed your animals and something like that happens, what do? You got to have money in a nest egg. You need to put money aside for an emergency and be prepared for anything to happen. Oh, poor Reg, she got the coughing attack.
And another thing, let's say you're sick. Your SO is sick. You still got to get out there and take care of those animals.
Yep.
They depend on
Yep.
you for their livelihood, for their lives.
That's absolutely
Why
right.
would don't be cruel and say, oh, they can be all right, while I'm sitting there sick. No, they can't. At that point in time, that's when you really want to freaking take their water and their food away from them and go, how do you like it? Oh God, I'm sorry, Shaky.
No, you're fine. And like Jackie just said, on top of the well and the other in that box, we had a dog get sick. It was a $900 vet bill on top of that. We were
Yeah, we
lucky
got
we had the money in the side. We were lucky we had money put away, but it wiped us out of our savings. We're done. We're done right now. That's why we got to that's why I'm trying to get a job. We need to rebuild our savings back up. So I
well,
mean,
we got a $400 vet bill because we thought the food that we was giving our dogs was good food, but what we didn't realize until we got the $400 vet bill was that they needed a more high protein uh, food because Jack couldn't go outside and take a simple dump, and he was miserable. Jack is our dog, and he is also part of that homestead because we
exactly.
use him to protect our property with,
Yep.
to protect our house with, and that gets expensive. But I'm not saying don't homestead because let me tell you what, there is a lot of enjoyment out of doing it. Because when you get your garden growing and you can step away from it and see all the hard work that you put into that, knowing no one else did that but you and your team, that's rewarding. That helps your self confidence because that tells you, damn straight, I can do it too. Hence, which is why we got our name, Kiss My Grass. It's actually stands for Kiss My Ass, but and the reason we we had to name it something that YouTube was friendly with.
It's a great name.
Yes, but the reason we got Kiss My Grass Acres is because people were telling us we were disabled. I mean, I've said that in my intro, that I put on there. I'm in a wheelchair full time. Travis is partially deaf and has autism. Matt has ear problems and has dyslexia and all that. But we did it. When people said we couldn't do it, we told them, you can kiss our grass because we damn sure can. And that's what we do. We can every year. We grow a garden. We can. You know, we even give to our next door neighbors, like the elderly lady across the street. She's only got herself. Whenever she wants eggs or something, she can call over. Do you have any eggs I can have? Darn tootin' we do. And do I
Yeah.
ask for money from it? No. because God told us to take care of our elderly.
Yeah.
Will I take care of a lazy ass SOB that wants to sit on his ass and a little wheelchair roll him around because he's too damn lazy to walk? Hell no. Okay, I'm off that subject again.
Well, I'm don't get mad at me, but I'm also going to use you for a great example right now. You grew up pretty much knowing what homesteading was. Travis, I think, had a good understanding what it was, and Matt was a city boy, and look what the accomplishments you have made with Matt. As
Yes,
I
sir.
don't think that boy knew how to grow a boil water or grow a damn weed if he went. But look at him now; he's growing a garden. He's with the chickens with Travis, and he's doing it. But y'all took your time and taught him and educated him, and he's learning. He's
But we
really
had
learning.
fun doing it.
Oh, sure, yeah, you do as a
That's
family.
also very important. You got to
Yeah,
have fun doing it because when you can laugh and you can actually, sit out there and be, act like complete idiots, you know, it's funny. It breaks the monotony of the hard work that you're putting in.
sure.
And also, that's what makes it worth it. But you've got to work at it. It doesn't come free and it
No,
doesn't come easy. But ain't nothing in this life easy.
that's the truth.
Like I said, I'm sorry. I just been on a rant.
Uh-oh, here we go. We done got
Uh,
Mary Ranch in it now, boy. Here we go. Hello, Sister Mary.
I have
Hi
been on a
guys.
rant all day
How are
long.
you?
I, I'm I'm gonna have to take these glasses off, man. It's like a
That's okay.
major glare
It's good to
here.
see
My
you.
Mary.
You can tell I'm not doing the greatest, but hey, I had to get on here because you guys are talking about homesteading,
That's
and
fine.
with homesteading, it's good and bad. I think the hardest thing for me is that I was real healthy, doing all the fencing and doing everything, and then now I'm disabled. With having what I have, it's very difficult to take care of everything.
Yeah.
So people need to be aware of that too, like what Jackie said earlier regarding, buy what you can afford, but you also have to look at buy what you can handle, especially when you get older. And, Red, thank goodness she has children to help you with,
Yeah.
to do this.
I couldn't do it without them. And that is the honest truth. I could not do it without them.
Yeah. And pretty much to me, homesteading is almost like being preppers, because they try to prep ahead of time to get things so they don't have to purchase things from the store,
Yeah.
and with Shaky saying, he had some issues with the well and all that stuff. And
Well,
yeah, it can really drain you. We always have to try to do ahead. Our thing is, we don't have a well. So, um, I guess up in my cabin we do, and we have extra parts. When we have money, we will put extra parts aside so we have it. And that's not easy either. And that's part of what I call prepping, trying to get things ahead. So if something has, you have something spare wise, I guess,
yeah.
have on hand. I was very fortunate that I knew a lot about electrical. I was a certified electrician as to with
Oh, wow.
quality and things for
Wow.
wiring. So I was able to take care of our house when we moved in. I mean, mind you, mine is from 1870, so it was knob and tube and all that kind of nasty stuff. And they had extension cords going all the way up. So people have to realize, depending on what you have, you got to think about things in the long term, just not a short term basis. And unfortunately, I thought my long term, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I really thought my health would still be here. So, it's there's a lot of hiccups being in a homesteader, and if you don't have
Yeah.
any close family or friends, it's difficult. And people have to look at that too. I can't imagine being off grid. Just you know, if I would have been off grid now, when I first started when we got this, I think we'd be all set. But I also had the money coming in because I was an engineer. So,
Yeah. Bomber
but
Steve, which I know that is, said the problem is we have forgotten that freedom is not free, and people who people are not prepared to pay the price for freedom, and that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Exactly.
expect the government to come in and feed you and clothe you, and no, that's
No.
laziness.
No, you do what you know. Yeah, that's. I don't expect them to. In fact, I don't even want them on my property. I don't want
Mhm.
anything to do with them, the government and whatever. They can, they can do my disability, but you know, I think. I mean, I don't want to get into too much detail, but let's just put it this way: I went in and did my thing through disability without a lawyer the first time and got approved.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, that is
Excellent.
awesome.
That's the
So
first time I've ever
there's,
heard of that. So excellent.
yep. So let
I
me
was
tell you
like
where
that
I'm.
when I was
Tells
younger.
you where I'm at. For me that didn't have a lawyer, went in and got disability.
Well,
So
a
I
lot of
have.
my paperwork that I got that got me approved was from John Hopkins Hospital, which is a huge army hospital there in D.C. That's that's where the president goes. If he needs to see a doctor, I think that's where he goes. But I was younger. I was only 18 at the time when I started getting my disability. At the time, my legs were giving me problems, but I wasn't. I have to say, although my mom and dad do not get along, um, she never would allow me to stop. She never allowed me to use my disability as a pity party type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie's
If
mom
I
was the
felt,
same way, Red. Jackie's mom was the exact same way. It was not an excuse,
hey,
and
see,
it never made to be used as an excuse.
well,
You
I would
had
be
to.
walking across yard. If I fell, she would stop and go, "Are you okay?" If I said, "Yeah," it should go. Our next question is, "Can you get up?" Yeah. Well, she would walk a little bit more. But if I said, "No, I can't get up," she would come back and help me up. She supported me. She did not allow me to use my disability as a crutch to try to hoodoo people. And that's probably why, to this day, I hate sympathy and I hate pity. It's because that is just, I can't do it. Mentally, I can't do it.
Right. Well, that's what happens. I mean, at
Hey,
least
lazy
you're
ankles.
going, you're going and doing what you
Okay.
need to do. You know, you're not saying, "Oh, pity me." You're doing what you can do, and what you can't do. Thank goodness you have some children to help you. I can understand where you're coming from. I really do when it comes to that. But yeah, I just and I just saw the note that you put up there. Hello, Peggy. She's probably gonna yell at me because I
Hi,
don't look
Peggy.
good, but I'm trying to feel better, Peggy. I really
Well,
am.
see, I don't want to, when people, I'll be honest with you. When people tell me I admire you
Hello, Peggy. Peggy and Andy Strong.
because, huh?
Pardon? He froze up again. You should have put Mr. Freeze back up on the screen.
No.
When people say I admire you or you inspire me, that makes me feel very uncomfortable. I don't like those words because I am me. I do me. You do you. But don't let a simple disability stop you. That's ludicrous.
Well,
Maybe I'm wrong to feel that way, but it
But
does
that's
make
what
me
they
feel. It does make me
that's
feel
what
very
they
uncomfortable.
that's what they admire. People who face adversity, don't make a big show and deal about it, just get on with life, don't let it hold them back. They're admirable qualities. So
yeah,
they're basically acknowledging the fact that you make the best of what you got at, and that's a fantastic human quality. There's not enough of it in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Why does it make me feel so uncomfortable then?
Look, being a role model is not comfortable with every person, and you're not doing it to be a role model,
No.
and to be an inspiration. And some people it doesn't sit well with, but that doesn't change the fact that people see what you do and why what you struggle through and whatever, and they say, gee, if I'm ever in that situation, I'm hope I'm as tough as that.
And it's
That's why I like to make people laugh. That's why I say that. I mean,
well,
sometimes-
Red. Some people also do it for their own satisfaction and benefit. You know, they'll say things to make themselves feel better. You know, or and not, you know, not realizing it's insulting somebody that's disabled. That, you know, it's.
Well,
So,
I don't see it as an insult. It just also makes me laugh because I don't think of myself like that.
Mm.
I don't think it's an insult. It's just very uncomfortable because in my brain I'm going, why are you feeling sorry for
Des.
me? Hi Des, you can do it too. So why are you feeling sorry for me?
Can't figure out how to do
Or
this.
why am I such an inspiration? You can do it too. You just have to pretty much have someone kick you in the butt, you know, and just do it.
Mhm.
But a lot of people don't know if they can because they've never been in that situation. And it's like, you know, can you walk over the hot coals? Well, you don't know until you actually got your feet on those bloody hot coals.
Yeah,
and some people make it and some people don't.
Yeah, but you'll never find out if you don't try.
That's right. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So how are things down in Australia?
Yeah, good. Yeah. Dark clouds and blue sky at the same time, so typical spring bloody day. But, yeah, no, all good down here. We've got a few things organised for coming up for the weekend, so that's always good. You might see in the background I'm in a pretty unusual place here at the moment because
Looks
like
like
you're in a graveyard.
yeah, because I wanted to introduce you guys to a member of my family, one that I actually was 10 years off actually ever meeting. So I've never actually met this guy, but you know, you talk about role models and inspirations and people that you admire. This is one bloke that I did, and you know, if I ever got a genie come out of an old kettle and gave me 3 wishes, one of those would be bring back my great granddad for a day so I can sit down and talk with him.
Yeah.
But I'll show you.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Mm.
See, I would love to be able to speak to my grandpa Farley because he knew all the basics, the mountain medicine type stuff. I would love Leslie John Heckler.
Well,
Leslie John Hecker. So this is my great granddad. So this is the badge of the Australian Armed Forces. We still use that, but that was basically created during World War One.
Wow.
He was in the 22nd Battalion. So at the start of World War One, Australia raised, I think, 24 battalions, which went off to fight in various places. After the debacle at Gallipoli, they were split in half, and more battalions were created. So they used half the battalions to seed new battalions, which got us up into the 40s and 50s. So he was one of the original ones, and Isabel is my great grandmother, and he was an Anzac. So Anzac is the Australian New Zealand Army Corps, which was a military force raised at the beginning of World War One. We were under British command, and it was a combined Australian and New Zealand force. And our first baptism of fire, I think you might call it, was the beaches of Gallipoli, which is in the Dardanelles, near Turkey. And we were fighting the Turks, who were allies of the Germans. And they were basically allies of the Germans because the British screwed them over with a few things and basically forced them onto the other side.
As an American and the Allies, the Australians being allies of the Americans, I thank him for his service for his country as well.
Yeah, no, he was an amazing guy. Came from a small country town, only a couple of thousand people in there. Couple of about 100 miles to the west of here. Big family. There was 3 of them that signed up. His half brother actually signed up when he was only I think somewhere between 14 and a half and 15.
Wow.
He was
did that back in.
Yeah, well, he couldn't sign up in his hometown, so he walked and basically travelled 400, say about 300 miles to the north to go to another town to sign up so that no one would recognise him. And yeah, he died he's actually buried over in British War Cemetery in Belgium. He was just short of 18 when he died in the Western Front.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But Leslie,
He was just a baby.
That's when men were
yeah.
men. No, that's when men were men when they were 18. Not
Well, I
finding their
know,
safe
but
space.
still, yeah, he was still just a. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, and this sort of comes back to what I commented before, you know. I saw a TikTok the other day of a guy, and he made the point, and I absolutely 100% agree with him. He said, you know, the problem is that people have forgotten the fact that freedom is not free. There's a cost.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time when this guy was around, the cost was there was a world war on, and, you know, there was a chance that a colonial power was going to, you know, take over. So what was the price of freedom? These guys had to sign up and leave their mothers and sisters and brothers and go over another country and fight and die and live in mud and shit and bloody see their mates blown apart. He was in the trenches at Gallipoli when he took a machine gun bullet to the lungs, and his brother was standing alongside him. I've got a letter that he wrote. His brother was crying, and he was taken to an army hospital in Malta. It took 6 months to patch him up there before he was expatriated back to Australia, and he was a sick man here for years. And he came back here and he built a house, and he got married and he raised a family, and one of those kids was my grandfather.
Wow.
And my mum would still can remember. She can remember when this bloke was trying to go to sleep at night and he'd be coughing and coughing and coughing because he was so sick from that wound. Now, he was prepared to pay that price for freedom.
Yeah.
And what have we got now? And I'm sorry if people disagree with this. We've got a whole bunch of selfish muppets out there that won't even put on a fucking mask to keep people safe because, oh, it's an infringement of my rights. Or piss off. Freedom has a cost. And at the moment, the price for freedom is getting this bloody virus under control and doing what you fucking have to get it done. This bloke lived in mud and shit and nearly died next to his brother, and people won't even put on a fucking mask. There, I've had my say.
Well, your say's welcome here. I believe in the First Amendment 100%.
you know what? I just found out tonight's rant night.
Yeah,
I was
well.
ranting earlier, Steve. So
Yep. I am just sick of this whole situation. I'm sick of all the bullshit and the lies and the crap that's being spread around and people that know jack shit being experts on this virus. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this world and what we have to put up with at the moment. It doesn't have to be like this. These blokes went to war and we can't even bloody do the right thing for each other. So there you go. There's an Aussie rant for you.
There you go. There you go.
So there you are.
Now that you got that out, let's change subject back to Homestead. How do you see homesteads failing down in Australia much, or do people seem to succeed in it more down there?
Yeah, well, homestead culture down here is it's different here. We tend to have what we call farms. I suppose they're homesteads. Homesteading and farming in Australia has always been a tough road to hoe. We have, extremes of weather. We have a lot of farmers, struggling and have been struggling for a long time. My partner Julianne works for a business that does basically assistance loans for farmers. So they get it at a low rate and it's basically aimed to bail them out and they can refinance expensive loans, whatever. She's been flat out for 5 years, and their program has given out billions of dollars. So there's a lot of people hurting out there at the moment, and it's the whole world situation. It's loss of markets. It's politicians sitting on their ass and doing nothing, or going along and picking fights with other countries because some other country decided they don't like them anymore. So, you don't like them, so we will too. So we'll pick a fucking fight with them. And who pays for it? The farmers do.
Yep.
So, there's a lot of people struggling. The small homesteader, they're doing pretty well, but the big farms, it's tough. And succession is a big problem as well, because kids can go to university and get a degree and get a training, and go get a job. Why would you go onto a 1,000-acre or a 2,000-acre farm and bust your guts for $2.50 a day when you can go work for someone else and pull in $100,000 a year?
Yeah.
So succession and family.
It's called being greedy at that point in time, though. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's about survival, though. I can fully understand. Kids that it's tough on the land. It always has been. It's just getting tougher and tougher. And add to the effect of climate change and the way that our land is drying out, and the raising in temperatures and the effect that's having on crops and growing. It's a pretty tough world out there for farmers' kids, and they see their mum and dad, working themselves into an early grave. Why would you take that on? And so, you're getting farms that are, leaving generations of farmers and heading to other people, or heading to multinationals. Multinationals come in and then buy it all up.
Yeah, that's happening here. Same thing here.
Forgive the pun here, but you're giving me some food for thought.
Yeah.
It's happening here too.
Yeah, exactly right. And we had an example of this year. Our lovely federal government had set up a new airport outside of Sydney. So they basically bought a block of land, and they paid $30 million for it, when the land value was $3 million.
Jeez.
Wow.
And why did they do that? Because the developer who had the land was a financial backer of their political party. So there you go. Now, when you've got muppets like that in charge, and I don't care left or right, liberal, conservative.
No, it's both sides here. It's both sides here. Exactly. I don't care what anybody says. It's both. When
they're doing crap like that, and there's $27 million of wasted money that could go back into our farmers, back into our ecosystems, back into setting up proper climate change policy, something that our current Prime Minister doesn't give a rat's ass about. You feel like you're banging your head up against the wall at times. So yeah, it's tough. It's challenging. Water is always an issue. Food costs, petrol costs. People are hurting, but at the same time, Aussies have always been pretty resilient and pretty tough. So what I'm doing here is pretty rare, because we don't tend to sort of have a whinge and a bitch about it. We just sort of shoulder arms and just do our best and keep going forward. But comes a time where you kind of had enough.
Yeah, I agree. I understand 100%.
That's why I don't consider myself a Republican or a Democrat. I consider myself as a free thinker.
Oh, look, I don't want to go political into the discussion, but I'm the same. I have a particular way that I vote, and as soon as the other side shows a policy in a direction that I agree with, they'll have my vote. But in the meantime, they're constantly against what I say. So,
Yeah, that's what I mean by free thinker. I don't really consider myself as a Republican or a Democrat. I think of myself as someone that can think for themselves, and they sure as hell don't need the government to think for me.
My biggest...
I was going to say, I vote left, and the moment the right comes out with a policy that I agree with, then I'll vote that way. But I might vote left, but I also point out the faults of the left, because there's just as many there as well.
My biggest gripe here in the United States is the fact that we have congressmen up there for 30, and I'm not talking about one side or the other, both sides, that have been up there 30, 40 years or more, and become millionaires. We need term limits on our Congress. That's just the bottom line. They need term limits. It's ridiculous that they can sit in office their whole life and become millionaires. That makes no sense to me. Not at all.
No. But there's only one homestead that I really worry about, and that's mine. It's doing quite okay, buddy.
Good deal. That's
it's not easy, but yeah.
There is one person that I have high admiration for, because the man was just, he was beautiful. And that's Martin Luther King.
Oh, yep. There
He was
was
beautiful on the outside and on the inside. And you don't find that much, you know? Nowadays, you
and there
don't
was
find someone to inspire you and all like that. Not so much. You don't.
Yep. But you look at him, and he was a man that said, "Look past the color of my skin and look at the man inside, and do that for everybody."
Exactly.
And he was one of many. Rosa Parks and all those people that stood up and said, "You know what? Enough's enough." And we're still fighting it. I don't say you're still fighting it. We're still fighting it, because we have just as much problem with the way that our Indigenous First Nations people over here are treated as well.
Sure, Aborigines,
And that's fighting that fight as well.
That's one reason I really fell in love with that band, Midnight Oil.
Yeah,
because that's great to me. That his message, especially that one song, his message was absolutely right, and it's the way we treated our Native Americans. It's
exactly.
It's disgusting, and it's. But
I must admit, I nearly had a laugh out loud. I was going to comment and thought, "Nah, Steve, don't just shut your mouth." But there was this particular live that was going on, and they said, "Oh yeah, Midnight Oil, what a great song! We should be, people would really enjoy it." And I'm thinking to myself, mate, the audience you've got in this particular live is diametrically opposed to absolutely everything that Midnight Oil stands for. They're anti-nuke, anti-colonial, anti-racism, anti-conspiracy theory, pro-vax, pro-mask, and you think people in this stream are going to enjoy it? Give me a break.
I personally have never heard of the band, so I can't make.
They were really around. I think back in the '90s was their high point, but they did that one song.
Still smashing it out, brother. They're still going well.
Good.
Yeah, they're one of my favourite bands. They lost their bass player at the end of last year from cancer, so that was I got to see one of his last performances, so I was pretty happy with that. If you want to see their latest stuff, do a search for Midnight Oil, One Nation.
Okay.
One Nation.
When I get off here tonight.
It's one of their latest songs.
I can't.
Mary Rance, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate your input. Thank you so much for coming in tonight and giving us. I don't think she's leaving, but she's telling Jackie. But she did leave our chat, our panel, and I wanted to thank her very much for coming in here tonight.
Well, let me ask you: is it heavy metal that you're talking about?
No,
no, Australian rock. Australian rock. They formed in the 70s. Had some really good albums. My favourite is Red Sails in the Sunset from the mid 80s. A couple of good anti-nuke songs in there, and the subjugation of the First Nations people songs, and some really good stuff. But just before that, they had another album called 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a bit of a mouthful. But got some really good songs in there.
I can't even listen to 80s music or the 80s rock. Although I grew up around it. I mean, I was an 80s kid. But I can't even listen to that because it will change my personality. I go from being calm, cool, collected.
Red, if I had to compare them to a American style band that you would know, I would put them in the same ballpark as like Journey or Foreigner or that kind of thing. They were more rock, but like an easy listening rock, not a heavy metal rock.
Okay. Yeah. See, easy metal, easy listening. I can listen to. And this is going to sound really weird, but I prefer listening to 60s music. I know, hippie era, time to get stoned and all that, but it's their music. It's the tone of their music that I like to listen to.
Yeah, you'd like them. You'd like Midnight Oil. You really would.
The thing I really like about his shaking.
Favorite bands is ELO, Kansas, and the Eagles.
There you go.
Oh,
the thing I really like about Midnight Oil is every one of their songs started with an idea, a concept, a protest,
Yes, gospel rock,
a message. Yeah, and from what they wanted to say about a particular issue, then the lyrics, then the music followed. But every single one of their songs, they've never done a song just for a song's sake.
Yeah.
It's every single one of them, every song on every album has got a message. And yeah, that just always.
Evanescence. I mean, the woman's got a beautiful voice.
Oh, Amy Lee.
Yeah,
Amy Lee. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
she's got a
awesome.
beautiful voice. But every time I hear any of their songs, like their early songs, it depresses me, and I sit here crying.
Yeah, no, I was actually listening to a live concert of Evanescence this morning. So, yeah, the girl can sing.
I also love Pink Floyd, but when I listen to Comfortably Numb, I understand it in a different way, because I understand the concept of being actually comfortably numb.
Well, if you like Amy Lee, she actually did a duet with, now the band is Hailstorm. I can't remember the lead singer's first name.
Lizzie Hales.
Yeah. So Amy Lee and Lizzie did a duet together, and I just can't think of the name of the song now, but it's really good, absolutely sensational. Very partial to Hailstorm too.
Yeah, she's got a beautiful voice. I mean, she really does. She's got a very beautiful voice.
Yep.
And I like, things like Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was always a big Stevie Nicks fan myself.
I had a crush on her back in high school.
Didn't we all?
She was something else.
I could deal with some Aerosmith, Mary, but
I like Aerosmith.
I like the let's keep it calm, let's keep it cool, let's keep it collective type stuff.
Aerosmith. I like the Aerosmith. Growing up, I really listened to a lot of Aerosmith.
I did too.
Walk This Way.
Growing up in the 80s, I don't remember half of it.
I know this is probably a fairly morbid topic, but while I'm at the cemetery, you might as well have a look at how nice it is here.
How come the graves are above? Do you have a high water table there?
No, that's just the traditional way that graves were done.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. So my great granddad's grave
cool.
was actually it's actually paid for and done by the Australian War Graves Commission. So the military actually paid for all their graves. But this is a modern take on it.
Oh, okay.
So this is which is probably more sort of what you guys are used to as well. So
I think it's really smart how they did that, because then they don't have to see here. You got all those tombstones and stuff, but I like how it makes it easier for them to cut the grass, because that's
what
the tombstones are on that thing. They can just go up and down.
Yeah.
Stay straight. They don't have to worry about going around each tombstone or anything. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So you can also put the flowers on top, so you're not having to deal with the flowers in front of the tombstone. You don't want to remove them because you feel that's wrong. So I mean,
yeah, and these are great places for people to come and remember. But this is the older section. So this section dates back 150 years.
Wow.
So this is a more traditional way of internment.
Steve, I'm going to ask you a trivia question. See if you know the answer.
Oh yeah.
Okay, what is the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery?
Graveyard is alongside a church, isn't it?
Yes, you're correct. Cemeteries are no churches.
Consecrated ground.
Right. You're exactly right. Graveyards are attached to churches.
I did not know that.
Yeah, graveyards are attached to churches, and cemeteries are just big open fields with graves in them.
And then traditionally there was one side that was unconsecrated ground where suicide victims would be buried.
Outside of the fence. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. Or people that were thought to be vampires or witches or anything else, they were put outside the churchyard.
That's why you have a lot of the graves in the old days had metal bars and cages put up to stop the undead from rising out of the grave.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice. I've got my great granddad there, and on my dad's side, I've got my great uncle who came out from Ireland at another cemetery, and that's a place I often go and sit and have a chat with him when I need to sort things out. But that's as you can see there, that's a sort of a traditional grave. 1924. You can see the styles changed over the years.
Okay, that one's got a fence around it. Why don't they all?
It just depends on the style that they chose and how much money they had. So, the first Bendigo graveyard was in town, and there's actually a sports field sort of took it over later on. So they basically had to dig them all up and move them, but they actually couldn't find them all. And there were also a lot of unrecorded burials in there because Bendigo was a gold field, and people would fight in the pubs, and people would get killed, or people would get sick, and no one knew who they were. So apparently the miners used to just jump the fence and bury their mate in the graveyard. So when they were building things, they found a lot of unknown human remains, I suppose, is what you'd say.
Yeah. That's a beautiful tomb.
So that one's only 2009. So
what was that? Those little tiny people-looking things.
I actually remember this couple. They were a lovely couple.
The flowers from afar look like people.
It's been a long time since I've visited Granddad. Granddad's up here somewhere, but I can't exactly remember where. Isn't that terrible? But yeah, this needs a bit of a mow. Come on, guys. Yeah, so that's a more modern version.
Travis's father passed away 12 years ago. He was 32 years old at the time, and he died of a massive coronary due to a blood clot.
Anyway. Yeah. And then it borders on some lovely native bush. So, it's just a nice setting, As you know, I'm an atheist, and my opinion is this is the final destination, and it's just nice to have somewhere where people can come and remember their loved ones.
Yeah, but their loved ones really aren't there anymore. It's an empty shell in a way. That's how I believe it, anyways.
Yeah. And good to see someone here had some good taste. There's a Essendon Football Club flag, so good on you, mate. You followed the strength when you were with us. Yeah, but I often used to come here and sit with the great granddad and have a chat to him and work through things. As I said, I wish I had the opportunity to sit down with him for a day and make him talk about his military service, because I'd still got a lot of gaps in the story, and I'd love to fill them in.
See, my mom talked about, well, personally, I say her dad, my brother had a wart on his finger. My grandpa just took his pocket knife and he cut it off. Yep. But he also put some type of natural remedy on it that he, into the woods and got, and that wart never came back. I mean, he's very educational about that type of stuff. I would love to be able to sit down and just say, hey, Grandpa, tell me about this. Teach me about that. Show me this.
Yeah, well, my grandparents on Dad's side, Pop was he'd tell you the same story every time you saw him, and as a kid you hear it once or twice and then you tune out. And I regret tuning out, because I'd give anything to sit down with him for a day and get a whole day's worth of stories of his life. So
Good night,
I wish I had I wish I had have recorded it and written it down. But life is a series of experiences and regrets.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with regret so long as you learn the lesson and try not to make it a regret in the future.
Good night, Marion. Thank you very much for coming up tonight. I appreciate you being here and even coming in and giving your insight on the topic.
And Shaky, like I said, please forgive me.
There's nothing to forgive. You're more than welcome.
I've been in a rant, and I've been on a.
One thing about this channel, we may not agree on things, but everybody has a right to say what they want to say. It's freedom of the First Amendment here. We're in the United States, and even down in Australia, if he wants to speak his mind, whether we agree or not, he has a right to speak it, and and either people can listen or not. It's up to them. I mean, bottom line
it's just all the bullshit. And then the physical therapist telling me that a guy came in there demanding to get an electric wheelchair. The guy was walking with the cane. Yeah. He said all he needed to do was do some exercises and learn how to use his cane properly. He said he didn't need an electric wheelchair, but that's what he was demanding.
Yeah.
And that made me mad.
Yeah, because people like that get something that they don't need, and then when people like you need something, they can't get it.
Exactly.
That's right. It's the 1%ers that spoil it for the rest of us. But
yeah,
the difficulty too is that the small percentage of people who abuse the system, and they are a small percentage, but they then create a stereotype and a perception and a known fact that all people on Social Security or all people on benefits are bludgers, and it's not the case. But
okay, now get this. Although my doctor wrote the prescription for my wheelchair, she's wrote the prescription. I've had him come out, measure me, and do exactly what I need him to do. It's a manual wheelchair. And I went to physical therapist to tell, so insurance will say, okay, yeah, he's saying that she needs one. But now we got to go back to my doctor who wrote the original prescription for her to look at him and say, yes, she needs a wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, the more as people abuse the system, then protocols and bureaucracy has to step in with hoops to jump through to try and combat it and to make sure that the people who deserve the assistance get the assistance. So you end up paying for it 3 times over.
Before I went in to see this physical therapist, and I was wrong in thinking like this, I was mad at the physical therapist. Why? It's not his fault. But yeah. I was mad because of all the red tape, and I seriously want to look at somebody and go, okay, what's our next obstacle? Do I do a half-mile run, or do it was high beams or something else? But I'm like,
and they're probably just as frustrated and just as angry as you are because they're being made to implement bureaucracy that gets in the way of doing their job. That's why I left being a teacher. One day I realised I was actually spending more time doing compliance and checks and collecting data and sending it to the department than I was actually preparing my lessons and teaching my kids. I went, well, this isn't what I signed up for. I didn't sign up to be an accountant or a data analysis. I'm a teacher, so stick it.
Yeah.
And I did.
What did you teach?
I was a primary school teacher, or what you guys would call an elementary school teacher. So my most, I preferred sort of the grade 4, 5, 6 area, the sort of senior part of primary school.
Good night,
just before high school.
I just found out tonight my civics teacher I had in high school, I really liked. He just passed away at 60 years old, but he was a great teacher, man. I really liked him.
And we've lost so many great teachers in the last, particularly the last 10 years, but just from the level of pointless bloody bureaucracy and ticking off and doing shit for the sake of doing it and keeping bureaucrat in a job. It's yeah.
Well, my
there's none-
niece went to school. I think she got her master's in teaching art, and she quit being a school teacher and decided to take her art and what she, and her photography elsewhere because she got tired of the bureaucracy. Got tired of the bullshit, really.
Yeah.
And now she has her own company where she takes pictures. She's making more money now than she was with teaching.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And she
Indeed.
doesn't have to put up a parents going, not my baby. My baby would never do anything wrong.
I wish I had $1 for every time I heard that.
Yeah. Now, I had a teacher. She was my music teacher. I loved this woman. She didn't put up with any crap from me, which is another reason I loved her. She put me in my spot when I needed it. And when she signed my yearbook, she put, to a young, beautiful girl who's got a lot of potential if she'll just learn how to use it. And that has stuck to me to this day.
Yep. Yeah, and I've had a few successes over my career as well, and they're the ones that you celebrate.
Peggy, are you still in here?
No, she's already crashed.
I didn't know if she was still hanging on by a thread, maybe. Please let me know if you're still in here.
Hey, I got an ecological / homesteading sort of concept now. Let me swap my camera. Okay. What should we consider when we chop down a tree?
The fence?
So here's an Australian. Hey, what?
The
fence? All right. So here's an Australian ironbark. Actually, it might be a paper bark. Anyway, it's got a really thick bark in there with lots of grooves. How many critters and animals you reckon's living in there?
Oh, quite a bit between the bugs and all everything else. It's a whole ecosystem.
As we come up, there's a spider web, there's a spider, spider webs. So in all this bark and that, there are so many creatures and whatever.
I don't want
and
to
people
see
go,
that.
yeah,
I do not like
big deal, Steve. So what? I hate spiders. Yeah, but guess what? Your local birds that you love to hear singing and that, they love spiders because they eat them.
That's right.
So
they can eat all the spiders they want to, as long as they don't the spiders come around me, I'm okay.
I'm not saying don't cut down trees, but I'm just saying every time you do, just consider the local ecosystem and what's in there. And if you do have to cut one down, pay it back. Plant another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever we take out of the local ecosystem, put it back in to help out, because we all love getting up and hearing the birds sing and seeing all the the life and that around us. But if we don't give back and start looking after it, it's all going to be gone.
My grandfather wouldn't buy just a cut Christmas tree. He always bought one with the ball underneath of it, and after Christmas we'd plant it. We never cut one down. He always planted. If we had a live, sometimes we had artificial, but if we ever had a live tree, it had a ball, the root ball with it, and he would put it in a big container.
Yep.
See, I don't use real trees when we put up Christmas tree. I recycle. No. I mean, we get the fake trees, and they last us for years. That way. I don't have to get
after Christmas, take it out and plant it outside.
Yeah. And, I love the homesteading community and meet some great people, but a sort of a stereotypical criticism of the average homesteader, which doesn't apply to everybody, but, as a stereotypical comment, is they're all very good at, looking after their homestead and getting things going, but they're not environmentalists. They tend to ignore the native ecosystem around them. And that frustrates me, because everything I look at, as I said, I'm a snake relocator. I'm a Steve Irwin fan. I always look at both the farm and the local ecosystem. Is what I'm doing going to impact the local lizards and birds, or I want to do this, but is this plant better because it's a native and it will then bring in the parrots and support them and give them natural food to eat? So, I would love to see the entire homesteading community be as passionate about their local ecosystems as they are about their what they grow on their farms.
Okay, I got a question to ask. All right, during the spring and summer, stuff like that, we do not feed our local birds. But during the winter, when I know that the food is still, scarce for them, we do feed them, bird food.
Yeah, we do
Now
too.
we got squirrels that would come up here and eat it too. Is
Good.
that the proper thing to do, or
feeding native birds is not recommended for a couple of reasons. One, if you feed them the wrong things, like we have magpies here and people think they're doing the right thing and they feed them mincemeat because the magpies love them. Yeah, they do love it, but it's actually not good for them. So they then take the mincemeat back and feed it to their babies. And because there's no calcium in the mincemeat, they actually get a calcium deficiency and their beaks all deform and then the babies starve to death because they can't eat. So you do have to be mindful of what you're giving them. So if you are going to feed native birds, do some research, find out what they eat naturally in the environment. And if you want to provide something, provide that. The other kicker, of course, is you're then making wild animals dependent on you for food.
Yeah.
And that's not a good association.
That's the part that bothers me. So I don't want them to depend on me for their food. But at the same time, in the winter, I'm like, if I don't give them something, they might go hungry. And I would not hurt an animal. Or maybe a snake or a spider. But other than that, I would not hurt an animal for the love of my life.
Red, before you built that house, those birds were in those woods surviving harder winters than we have now. There is a way. Nature makes a way for everything to survive.
That is true, but I'll give you the but. So yes, I'm also an evolutionist, and survival of the fittest and making sure that only the ones that are able to hunt and get the food and should be the ones that survive to then breed because you keep the population strong. But native animals all around the world have had so much of their habitat taken away from them that it is harder and harder for even the strongest of them to then find enough to survive. What they're dealing with now is a much reduced ecological footprint to what they evolved over the last millions and millions of years. So we sort of have to tread a fine line between keeping an eye on the local system, and when we have an especially bad time, if they've had a dry summer, spring, a dry summer, autumn into winter, and the food supply that's normally around is not there, then if you see a lot of animals struggling looking for food, then by all means supplement their food cautiously with the correct stuff. Yeah.
But generally, the food that we're giving them has got like cracked corn in it, sunflower seed. It's for wild birds.
Yeah. And and it's really hard because one species of bird that's good for them, and the one that comes in sits next to them, sunflower seeds are no good for them because they don't normally eat those sort of seeds. So it's hard.
I get so mad. I'll go to our local park and the state park, and there's a pond, and you see people throwing bread to the ducks. Bread kills ducks.
No, you don't do that.
No, bread kills them. But you watch people doing this, like, oh man, that'll kill the duck.
Because they don't know any better.
Are you like me? You want to go grab them by the scruff of the neck and slap them sideways on the face, going, "Stop doing it!" Very, very, very frustrating. I know. There was a native Australian animal Facebook page, and a bloke said, that he feeds mincemeat to his magpies, and me and a couple of others paid out on him, going, "You don't do that, mate." And he came back with a line that just got my hackles up. I was like a wolf, ready to pounce the attack. He said, "I've been doing it for years and it's never had any bad effect on the magpies that I've seen." And I'm going, "You ignorant, smart ass bloody." Yeah. Said, one, you haven't seen the magpies that you've killed by doing that. And two, you've got experts in here that know what it is. And you're saying that because you've been doing it for 50 years, you know better.
Problem is, there's too many damn cooks in the kitchen and not enough people learning from them.
there's
That's
a lot
right.
of false information being shared. That's a lot of it.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
share
Well, that's
false
kind of
information.
that's
And,
what I
and
tried to get across, but I don't think I've done a very good job.
just like I was saying earlier, people buy goats thinking they'll eat everything, and they won't eat
They
everything,
don't.
and some things will kill them. I mean, people just
No.
don't realize.
That's one. I mean, we want goats, but that's one reason that I'm scared to get them because the only place we got is over here, and it's pretty much all woods. So, I mean, they would get enough shade. But is there stuff in there that's going to harm them? Because if I harm them because of my own stupidity, I can't live myself with that. I can't do that.
I mean, we've got some country land up here. It's called the High Country. It's up in the Kosciuszko National Park, and cattlemen used to be able to run their cattle through there, and then it was banned because of the damage that they were doing to the ecosystem. Damaging waterways, so they can't go in there. And now you've got people, and we've had some bad bushfires or whatever, but you've got people saying, "Oh, we should put the cattle back in the High Country because they eat everything, and and they'll control all the underbrush, and you won't have bushfires." And it doesn't matter how many experts come out that explain to them that cattle selectively graze and only graze on the grasses underneath, which then creates more room for the scrub and the brush to grow, which is actually more volatile and more bushfire prone. So cattle in the High Country actually increases bushfire threat. And it doesn't matter how many ecological experts come out and say that, because Granddad did it, therefore it must be right. And that's what pisses me off about modern social media. Everyone's a freaking expert.
Yeah.
It was another frustration about being a school teacher. Everyone was an expert on education because they all went to school once.
Well, I mean, I've watched before we got our chickens. I watched a video, but then it got to be confusing because one person was saying this, and another person was saying that, and I'm like, "What the hell? That's contradictory." And so it was making me confused, and I went, "The hell with this! I'm gonna go to some homesteaders that I know and I trust." Ask them. I mean, yeah, we've only had our chickens. Well, it's been a year. We've only had them a year, and I'm still learning stuff because I want to make sure that I'm doing the best of my knowledge of taking care of them.
Yep. But you talk to people that have been involved with them for a long time, and you learn off them. But talking about chickens, Shaky, did I ever tell you about the rooster that we lost a couple of weeks ago, Big Rocky? Oh, I found he passed away in the chicken run the other week, and he was a beautiful rooster, Plymouth Rock. I think you guys call him Bard Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he was a mongrel. I don't know what I did to him either in this life or a previous one, but he hated me. Like every time I'd go in, he'd line me up and he'd fly. He drew blood 3 times. But,
wow.
I tolerated him because he was, big spurs on him. He was a beautiful rooster. But anyway, he passed away, and we've got 3 of his offspring. We've got 3 roosters in there at the moment. And one of them we're going to keep because he's probably the best genetically out of them. And the last couple of times I've been letting him out of the new chicken tractor. And he didn't have a name for him. I'm now calling him Son of Rocky because he's come out of that chicken coop and he's gone me every single time. He stalks me round the run and he flies me all the time. I'm going,
We had a rooster, but we dispatched him because he had attacked Travis, tried to bite him in the face several times. He attacked Matt. He attacked a 4x4 post in our run. He tried to attack the lawnmower. He tried to attack the weed eater. He tried to attack the hay that we put. I like putting like hay or straw in their run, in the wintertime because I don't want their little feet to get cold. I may be overdoing on that one. But, but I mean, he tried to kill our olive acres. And we're like, no. You're gone.
Oh yeah, no, they can leave.
What you do is when he comes after you, grab a hold of him, take 2 fingers and hold him down by the neck with them 2 fingers on his neck.
Yep.
so he can look
Okay.
up at
Travis
you,
did
and
that.
you show him who the boss is. Make sure he sees you good, and he'll learn. He'll learn. You might do a few times,
Yeah.
but he'll realize that you're the boss.
Travis
and
did that. He
he-
did all that. He followed everyone, to pin him
I
down
quite knew-
and all that.
I quietened him down a bit today. He came at me, and I had the chook bucket with me, and he got the chook bucket fair square in the chest and head, and I knocked him over backwards. And he sort of got up and looked at me, and I stood there, and I say, "Well, come on, prick, you want to have another go?" And
yeah,
guess what?
Yeah.
He did it.
yeah. That's all it is. He's just showing his dominance. Once he sees that he can't dominate you, he'll stop.
Yeah, well, I got the same with my bull, Resi. You know, he's probably 1,500 pound. And I just constantly got to make sure that he knows that he pulls anything on, he gets a smack across the head with a big piece of pipe that I carry with me.
No, but my sister was telling me that her husband's grandmother, every time she went out to collect eggs, her rooster would try to attack her. So she always carried a big stick with her.
Yep.
So she'd knock his butt out, go and collect the eggs and leave before he woke up.
Animals can be so much fun, can't they?
Yeah. Well, we got 4 cats, 3 dogs, and 22 chickens. Wait a minute.
Yep.
Take that back. Two of them ain't chickens. They're
guinea keats.
Yeah, guinea. Yeah, they're guineas. Oh, I love the sound of them. I absolutely love it.
All right, dudes and dudettes and everyone. I better get out of here.
I've got to get off here myself.
Work.
It's 11 o'clock here, so I'm gonna go to bed anyway.
Oh crap!
Yeah, I meant to say the other day too. Yesterday when I came in and you disappeared, but I thought, I've scared him off. But
no, it's the damn internet. You see how much I'm freezing up? It's just the internet. It's crap here. It just sucks.
Jeez,
I'm gonna go and finish actually eating my dinner. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock at night and I haven't finished eating.
I would have thought America would have. I would have thought America would have rocket fast internet all the way right around the country by now.
They generally do.
I live.
But I didn't get up till around 8 o'clock. So when I got back, I was tired. I mean, I haven't gotten over the bronchitis, and it wears me out pretty quickly. You know, so I get tired very easily. And the only thing I did today was go to see the physical therapist. But getting ready to go and then going and being already hyped up because I have to go through this, it wore me out.
Yep.
Says, have a good day, Steve.
Thanks very much for that. I've got half a day left, so it's daylight savings over here, so I get a bit of time when I go home, which is good. I reckon Elon Musk would be able to sort out all the internet if he'd stop putting these phallic-looking rocket up into space.
I just wish they had kept William Shatner up there.
Flying dildos. He's got flying dildos.
I saw a fantastic meme yesterday. It was a picture of the Musk, rocket heading up into space with William Shatner, and someone said, "Oh, look, 2 cocks going up into space."
But when Spock died, when Leonard Nimoy died, I was at a sci-fi convention, and everyone was waiting in line to get their lanterns because you had to wear a lantern. Well, they had a television in the lobby, and it came over air that Leonard Nimoy, he died the first day of that sci-fi convention.
Oh wow!
Everyone just went off to either somewhere or they went to the room, but there wasn't a dry eye in that place.
Yeah.
And I was awesome. Telling my next door neighbor about that, him and his girlfriend. And I started crying and I went, why couldn't it have been Leonard Nimoy? And they didn't know whether to laugh. I mean, not Leonard Nimoy, but William Shatner. They didn't know whether to laugh or to go, oh, I'm so sorry. It was like, what do we do here?
Yeah. As much as I like Captain Kirk in the original series, I can't stand William Shatner. So there you go.
No,
all right, dudes. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Stay warm.
I appreciate you coming in.
Have a good day, Steve.
You need to run a longer telephone line down the road somewhere where they've got better internet, mate. Yeah.
No doubt.
All right. Bye, all.
No.
Bye. All right, I know Jackie's already gone to bed, so I know you don't like waking her, and he's frozen. Mr. Popsicle Man, where are you? Popsicle. There he is. The
Abracadabra.
Man.
Abracadabra.
Well, I know that Jackie's going to bed, and I know that you don't like waking her up, so I'm gonna get off here too.
Thank you, Red, for coming in. Thank everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. And once again, if you're thinking about getting into Homestead, think it through. Think everything through. Make sure it's right for you. Make sure it's right for everything. And if you do, I wish you the best of luck.
And remember, it takes teamwork.
Yeah. Well, even if you do it by yourself, just think it through.
True. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me to bitch, moan, and complain.
No, you're good. Good night, sis. I love you. Y'all have a good night.
Love you too. Good night.
See y'all in the next one.
Bye-bye.